Every time you tell yourself you can't have something, you end up wanting it more, and you're the one doing that to yourself, on purpose, without ever noticing. There's a name for this pull, and once you see it, you're going to notice it running half the decisions you make in an average day. Stick with me, because the fix is almost embarrassingly simple once you see the mechanism underneath it. Psychologists call this psychological reactance. Here's the simple version. The second you feel like a choice is being taken away from you, whether someone else is doing it or you're doing it to yourself, part of your brain treats that like a threat. Not a threat to your body, a threat to your freedom. And its only job, in that moment, is to protect that freedom. So it pushes you, hard, toward the exact thing that just got restricted, not because you suddenly wanted more on its own merits. Because wanting it, and maybe taking it, proves to yourself that nobody actually controls you, and there's a reason your brain is built this way. For most of human history, losing the ability to choose where you go, what you eat, who you're with, meant losing status, resources, sometimes survival. So somewhere along the way, your brain wired up a fast, automatic alarm for anything that smells like control. It doesn't wait to check if the restriction is reasonable. It just reacts first and asks questions never. You've actually seen this in its purest form already, in toddlers. Tell a 2-year-old they can't touch something, and watch how fast their hand goes straight for it. That's not defiance for the sake of defiance. That's the exact same alarm, just running with zero filter. Look at how far this actually goes. The second something gets restricted, it gets more interesting. A book gets banned, and suddenly everyone wants to read it. A website gets blocked, and it's the first tab you open when you're free. A door says do not enter, and that's the door you remember. None of that is really about the object. It's your brain reacting to the wall, not what's behind it. Tell a room full of people they can't do something, and watch how many start wanting to. Here's the part that matters, and it's the part companies figured out a long time before psychologists gave it a name. Invite only, members only, limited release while supplies last. None of that language is about scarcity of the product. It's engineered scarcity of your access, and it works because restricted access feels like a threat to your freedom to choose. So you want in more than you'd ever want the actual item on its own. You've felt this on your phone too. A video gets a sensitive content warning. Click to view anyway, and that warning alone pulls in more clicks than the video ever would have gotten sitting there unflagged. Oh, that's wild. But it's true, and some platforms use it on purpose, because a warning label is basically free advertising for curiosity. Same thing happens at work. Roll out a new policy with zero explanation, mandatory, effective immediately, and watch the pushback. Even from people who would have agreed with the policy if you'd simply asked them first. It was never about the rule. It was about who got to decide. I'd guess you've caught yourself doing this exact thing. Someone tells you flat out you can't, and some part of you goes, watch me. But here's where it gets personal, because you don't need another person in the room to set this off. You can do it entirely to yourself. Say it out loud, no sugar. Notice what happens. The second you tell yourself you can't have something, your brain stops thinking about anything else. You're not craving cake because you're weak. You already know exactly which food just popped into your head right now. You're craving it because you just built a wall around it, and your brain hates walls. This is why diets built on banning foods fail more than diets built on choosing them. The restriction is the trigger, not the food. And here's the part that saves you from thinking you're just broken or weak-willed. This doesn't fire on everything you restrict, only on the things where some part of you still feels entitled to choose. You don't crave stuff you were never interested in just because somebody bans it. You crave the things where the choice still felt like yours, right up until the second it got taken away, which also tells you when this hits hardest. Sudden restrictions hit harder than gradual ones. Restrictions with no reason attached hit harder than restrictions you actually understand. Here's another thing that changes the intensity. Honestly, a restriction with a clear end date barely registers, because part of you can already see the freedom coming back. An indefinite one, forever, no explanation, hits far harder, because as far as your brain can tell, that freedom might be gone for good. And there's a direct threat to your autonomy sitting underneath all of it. And being told what to do in front of other people hits hardest of all, because now it's not just your freedom on the line, it's whether everyone watching thinks you still have any. Give the same restriction with a real reason attached, and let the other person keep even a small piece of the choice, and most of that pull just disappears. The fix was never about more willpower. It was about who's holding the choice, and how much of it you got to keep. And the exact same wiring runs the other direction anytime someone else tells you what to do. Give someone advice they didn't ask for, even advice they'd fully agree with if you'd ask them privately, and watch the first reaction. It's almost never thank you. It's usually some version of don't tell me what to do, even while some part of them knows you're right. Tell a friend you don't think they should date someone, and watch that person suddenly become a lot more interesting to them. Parents watch teenagers do the exact opposite of a rule just to prove the rule doesn't own them. Partners dig in on something small, not because they actually disagree, but because agreeing in that moment felt like losing. Some people learn to use this on purpose, by the way. Ever notice a coach or a parent say, "You probably can't pull this off," right before someone tries twice as hard? That's reverse psychology, and it's the exact same mechanism, just aimed on purpose instead of by accident. It works because it hands you a restriction wrapped inside a challenge, and your brain can't tell the difference. You know exactly who does this to you. And if you're honest, you've probably done it right back. So what do you actually do with all of this, starting today? Here's the first move. The word can't is doing more damage than the thing you're avoiding. Every time you say it, you're handing your own brain a wall to fight. Stop saying you can't. Start saying you're choosing not to. It sounds small, but it isn't, because choosing is a door you walked through yourself. Nothing outside you is restricting you anymore. You're the one doing it, and your brain stops rebelling the moment there's nobody left to fight. Try it on the one thing you keep failing to quit. Second move, and this one's for the people around you. When you tell someone what to do, straight up, command mode, you're not just handing them information, you're threatening their freedom. And their brain reacts exactly the way yours does. That's why unsolicited advice gets ignored even when it's completely right, and why don't do that so often lands as a dare instead of a warning. Ask before you advise. Something as small as, "Hey, want my take on this," changes the whole shape of the reaction, because now they get to say yes first, and the second they say yes, the wall is already gone. Wait, it gets better, because there's a third move, and it works even when you actually need the outcome, not just the buy-in. Give a choice inside the boundary instead of a command on top of it. Not, "Do the dishes now." Instead, "Do you want to do them now or right after dinner?" Same outcome, dishes get done, but you just handed back the one thing their brain was ready to fight for. Most people aren't fighting the task. They're fighting the feeling that they had no say in it. It costs you nothing, and it works more often than you'd expect. None of this means rules are bad, or that every restriction deserves a fight. Good rules still hold up fine. They just tend to survive a lot better when they don't feel like a leash, and when the person following them still feels like they had a say. Every rule you've ever broken just to prove you could, that wasn't rebellion. That was your brain defending a freedom nobody was actually taking from you in the first place. Which brings this right back to that thing you keep telling yourself you can't have. It was never actually forbidden. You just built the fence yourself and forgot you were the one holding the gate. And the second you remember that, there's nothing left in you to rebel against. If this made something click, a like actually helps the channel get this in front of more people. And if you're into this kind of thing, me pulling apart how people actually work, hit subscribe. I put a new one out every week. Last thing, tell me honestly, what's the one rule you've broken just because somebody told you not to break it? I read every comment.